may I ask also and put the question, why didn't you move faster yesterday? Did you prepare yesterday? Yes, we prepared. We had over 200, 300 police officers out there around that mall at the time that it took place. Why didn't you move faster? Because there are 14, 15, and 16-year-old kids out there. Do you want people using force on 14, 15, 16-year-old kids that are out there? And they're old enough to know better. They're old enough to know not to do those things. They're old enough to be accountable, but they're still kids, unfortunately. And so we had to take that into account while we were out there.
So we have a mayor who tells the police to let them destroy, and a police commissioner who won't go after 14 and 15-year-old kids who are burning and looting and throwing bricks and rocks and bottles at cops because they're kids. Wow, what a recipe for disaster. Blame it on the Republicans. Jim Hoft is the GatewayPundit.com, of course, inventor. He's the owner of GatewayPundit.com. He's also the Accuracy in Media Award winner. And Jim, I got to tell you, when you hear this kind of stuff, it just makes you scratch your head or actually want to hit yourself in the head a little bit.
Yeah, and they wonder why they have businesses up in flames, you know, with policies like that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't get it. All right, you have something that talks about a story posted on your site, quoting a psychiatrist, actually Dr. Ablow, I should say, that the Baltimore protesters were hostage to entitlements, and it's self-hating blacks with low self-esteem and anger issues that are rioting.
Yeah, that about says it all. Of course, that's not really a big surprise when you think about it. It's that inner rage they have that's built up after years of Democratic policies, you know, in these cities. Baltimore, of course, hasn't had a Republican in charge for, what, 50 years? So, you know, that's what happens when you have these progressive policies that are failing all across the nation in our inner cities. And you have this built-up rage, and we still, in fact, Steve, there was some more rioting this week in Ferguson, and we're seeing it also in Baltimore now.
And there are reports, you know, of fears that it will spread across the country. And we have, you know, reports of National Guard training for that kind of eventuality. So it's very frightening, especially when you have, you know, Democratic leadership in these cities that will probably take a hands-off approach. Let's move on to something. This is a story of yours linked at Drudge. The GDP, the growth rate under Obama and Reagan, both taking us out of disastrous economic times. And it's no contest. The GDP under Reagan just blows the recovery of Obama right away.
Absolutely. And it's unfortunate that the Republican Party does not make a bigger issue out of this. We saw Obama come into office, him and Pelosi and Reid, and they passed that $1 trillion stimulus. It was a dud. It did nothing. And now we see after several years where we're at with Obama's policies, big government, versus Reagan's policies back in the 80s, where he put the power in the people's hands and gave them back their money to invest themselves and to use how they thought, you know, was best with their own wise decisions. Obama's GDP today came out as 0.2, Steve, and as you know, as we all know, a lot of times these numbers will be revised downward.
Right.
So I wouldn't be surprised if this goes negative the next time it's revised. And compare that to Reagan, who was having, you know,